Hello guys, my name is Nabiri and in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about how I make my melodies. But first, before we start off, I want to talk about major and minor chords. So let's say we are in the scale of C major. If you don't know, C major is only the white keys you see in the piano roll right here. So let's say we want to make that C major chord. You place the root note, which is a C. After that, you're gonna start counting to 3 and 5, and that will make your chord. So 1 is C, 2 D, 3 is E, 4 and 5, place one note over there, and as you'll hear, this is a C major chord. You hear that because it's a little bit more happy feeling. And if you want to make a minor chord in the scale of C major, you just go on D, for example, and D is 1, so 2, 3, 4, 5. So over here you have a D minor chord, major, and that's a minor chord. So if you don't have this knowledge about how scales work and which notes are in the scale, or maybe you have a little bit less feeling for it, you can go down here and go to helpers, scale highlighting, and then you can choose whatever scale you want. For hardstyle, we tend to use just minor natural or major. I think I'm gonna stick with minor natural for now. And what you see that it does is it just gives me all the notes that I can play for this scale. So all these notes are in the scale, and let's say we want to make this chord without knowing which chord it is. You just place your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is for this example, it's a A sharp major chord. So let's choose the right scale in the helper section and get going with some chords and a bass line. So for this tutorial, I already had a bass line going. The reason I start with a bass line is because all these bass notes are root notes for the chords you're gonna build. So right now we're in the scale of C minor, and we're just gonna do that counting again, 1, 3, 5, to get the right chords on these bass notes. So that's 3, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Then for the G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, and 5. So if I'm correct, this will sound good. So there you have some working chords on the bass line that you could have made. Now when we have these chords, you can, if you want, remove the helpers, and I'm gonna do that because I really get sick of all these white notes. I don't use them that often, so I'm just gonna go back to the normal black notes again. And then you can move some notes in the chords, because you see right here this G is all the way up there, and when you're playing on a piano you kind of want the chords to be close to each other. So we're just gonna move that down there, and right now you kind of have a more unified feeling for these chords. So as long as you stay with that same note, if you have it up here, it's a 1, 3, 5, so it's the 5th note. As long as you keep it on the G, in this case, you're just gonna keep the same chord. When you're gonna move this to maybe this, then you're gonna move away from that C chord, so you just want to keep it on that G. Before I forget, when you want to start out with a melody and you have no inspiration, like I have right now, you have all the notes painted out for you already, so you can choose this all the chords in all the notes of the chords and start a melody, and maybe when I put a G up here, maybe it strikes some kind of inspiration for me, which makes the entire melody going. So let's say we start off with a D sharp. And I'm just gonna put the velocity of the upper notes up a little bit and this down a little bit, because I can't even hear the top melody. It's a little bit too much. So like this you can a little bit hear it better. And now it just comes down to inspiration. So this already kind of strikes me. So what you see me doing right now is I got this kind of a rhythm going over here, and I tend to stick a little bit to it. So this kind of is a nice response to this rhythm, and over here probably I'll copy this sort of rhythm, and maybe over here I'll copy this rhythm, just change the notes up so it flows a little bit well, but still feels different. So this is a basic example for a melody that just came out of nowhere for me. So what you can do right now, and I'm gonna do that, is just copy the melody and change up some notes right here. And when you do that, you can just keep the same rhythm again and change up the notes so the melody has a second kind of chapter to it and processes a little bit longer, so you can put that into your track. So a thing that I'm changing up right now is we tend to get back to that D sharp right here, and over here I had it at a G, but I feel like putting it up back again to that D sharp kind of gives that repeating feeling, which makes it better to listen to. So now it went down all the way, but we kind of had a melody with some drive, and with these notes on the G, it just took away all the drive. So I'm just going to switch that up for a little bit. Maybe keeping it up keeps the flow a little bit happier, a little bit more drivey feeling. So we now again go back to that G, but it's an octave higher, and when you have it an octave higher in the ending of a melody, it always feels like reaching out and maybe a little bit more melodic. So I think this works. And really the biggest tip I can give is make a melody entirely. So don't just create something that sounds good over here, then something entirely different over here, and never listening back the entire melody that you've made. I feel like beginning producers tend to create nice rhythms, but then they, in the second part, they forget about the entire beginning that they had, and they just create something that's so different from the beginning that it, first of all, won't stick in your head. It won't be on repeat for the listeners that listen to your track, and it just isn't catchy. So really, when you make a melody, you can better listen to it multiple times entirely, so you hear how the entire melody flows. That's what I meant to say. So this, for me, I think it's a success. It's a great sounding melody. It's not really my style, but I like it. And it just shows how I just go through that entire process. Maybe not even ending up using the melody, but just showing you how to create a melody. So I hope you liked the tutorial and learned a few things about it. Maybe learned a few things about FL Studio. And if you have any suggestions for tutorials, just let me know. Consider liking, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.